Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishpad Paramahamsa Parivraj Acharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. He wants you to pill every one of those. Huh? Oh. Because sometimes you don't have to peel them if they're the red skin potatoes. Isn't it? But he prefers that, or? Oh, it's for good choice. Oh, it's for good choice. Okay, that makes sense. Because the brown skin potatoes you have to peel no matter what, usually. Unless you have a baked potato, right? We don't really have baked potatoes too much around here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj returns home. Verses left, 67 verses. So we're on text 34. Some more. Maya tat pratavartam chijik seva gatayashi prasadya jagat atmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachiddham ayachyam bhavam bhagya vivarjitaha maya tat partitam vartam chikit seva katayushe prasada jagat atmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachiddham yachayam bhavam bhagya vivarjitaha maya tat partitam vartam chikit seva katayushe prasadya jagat atmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachiddham yachayam bhavam bhagya vivarjitaha. Please chant. Word by word translation. Maya, by me. Etat, this. Prartitam, prayed for. Vartam, uselessly. Chikitsa, treatment. Eva, like. Kata, has ended. Ayushi, for one whose life. Prasadya, after satisfying. Jagat Atmanam, the soul of the universe. Tapasa, by austerity. Dushprasadanam, who is very difficult to satisfy. Bhavachiddham, the personality of Godhead, who can cut the chain of birth and death. Yache, prayed for. Aham, I. Bhavam, repetition of birth and death. Bhagya, fortune. Vivarjitaha, being without. Translation. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in my case, although I have satisfied the Supersoul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am. For in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. Purport. Sometimes it so happens that a devotee engaged in the loving service of the Lord desires some material benefit in exchange for this service. This is not the proper way to discharge devotional service. Out of ignorance, of course, sometimes a devotee does so, but Dhruva Maharaj regrets his personal behavior in this connection. Next text. Svarajam yachato madhyan manome bhikshito bata ishvara chana punyena palikaryani vadanaha. Because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like that of the poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance asked only a few broken grains of husked rice. Purport. In this verse, the word svarajam, which means complete independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity who is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord, just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents, who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become... What are they trying to become? Is that what it says? Independent simply by fighting against obstacles offered by Maya. That is called the struggle for existence. Real independence is to be reinstated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to the Vaikuntha planets or Goloka Vrindavan planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. That is complete independence. Just contrary to this is material overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. The living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that, than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The warding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it is a sign of our misfortune. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chukshalan Malitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Karirvachalam Pangam Langai Tegirim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditaranam Vancha Kaparubhishta Kripa Sindhabevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So our mistakes that we make within our lives not only affect us, obviously they affect us, the mistakes we make, but they can affect others also, and usually they do. It's not that we just make mistakes and we're the only ones who suffer for it. We make mistakes and we suffer for it, but also others suffer for it. Suffer because of that mistake we made. And therefore, a devotee always tries to, by all means, not make mistakes. Of course, it's difficult to do that, especially for somebody's conditioned soul, but at least a devotee tries to. Just a few words could completely damage somebody's consciousness, or at least scar them for years. And therefore, devotees careful what they say to others. Like I won't get into the anyways. There was there was some man here. He used to live on the property, and there was a temple president and the temple president's wife. This was 10 years ago, and she was pregnant. And anyways, I won't get into the details of what this man said, but it was very violent and aggressive, wishing harm on the baby, actually. And again, I won't get into the details. It was really nasty. Maybe I'll tell you later. But yeah, he just was completely violent and aggressive with his words. And then, of course, devotees told him, "Okay, you got to leave." So that was a case in which he wasn't careful with his words, and he made a mistake. And I'm sure he damaged or scarred her. You know, if these things come up, it's not that just one, I say something to you and then you forget about it. It's in your mind. Everything that enters our mind tends to stay there on some level. So whether it's words or whether it's how we treat people and so on, a devotee is very sensitive, actually. They should be, and they should try to be. In the sense that we always want to encourage people in Krishna consciousness. Not talking about sensitive, like sentimental sensitive or something, but we want to encourage people in the best way. I remember there was one homeless man. He was sleeping in the in the parking lot here, right? The parking lot right behind the temple. And we got back from Harinam, and I was, hitting the drum, right? You could relate to that, right, Zach? Hitting the drum, practicing or playing the. And then Tirthamaj was there, and he gave me a hard time. He said, "Hey, stop playing the drum. That man's sleeping there, the homeless man." So it's like some people would say, "Oh, who cares? It's just a, tamasic homeless man. We're devotees. So what? We wake him up. Good. He hears the transcendental sound of the mridanga, right? He gets purified." But Tirthamaj in his mind is saying, "Hey, how would you like to be woken up, right, from your sleep?" So in that way, he was being sensitive, even to somebody who was, you could say, for a lot of people, wouldn't really deserve the respect. So whatever it is, our actions, our words, how we treat people, we have to be very careful. And again, the mistakes could have long-term consequences for our lives and the lives of others. People do stupid stuff all the time and they go to prison. They suffer and their families suffer, their friends suffer because they're in prison. I mean, it's a miserable condition. To be separated for someone you love. So I remember recently, some time ago, one of the devotees in the congregation, an Indian man, he's elderly and he's a little sick and he's in the hospital, and he seemed to be on the verge of dying. So then, when he was laying there, he reported later that these fierce, intense, ugly, just angry entities appeared to him. Yeah, I wonder who they could be. They're described in the 6th canto. You know who they were? Nurses, yeah. Angry nurses. No, they're the Yamadutas. They weren't nurses. The opposite of nurses, yeah. The nurses take care. The Yamadutas, they take care, but they take care of in a very different way. You could read the description, when they're dragging you out and all that. So, and then the man, he was communicating to them, and he said, hey, wait, stop. I'm a devotee, or whatever he was showing us, Tulsi beads, or, hey, you got the wrong room, this is room 102, you need to go to 104, or whatever, so many other rooms. So you got the wrong room. And you could say that, I'm sure that spooked him, that freaked him out, and maybe he got more serious about his Krishna consciousness. But you could imagine if the Yamadutas actually would make such a big mistake as to actually take somebody who they weren't supposed to take. Yeah. Like a Jama. But actually go on with the whole process of, dragging them to hell and, the punishment and everything. That's a pretty big mistake. You can't just say, oh, whoops, sorry, I spaced out here. Yamaraj was like, hey, this guy's not, the guy's saying, hey, man, I'm innocent. No, you're not. You take him. It's really serious. So it's really serious service they do. They can't make mistakes. I've never heard of them making mistakes, but I don't know. If they did, I don't know, maybe the soul they could bring back into the body, I don't know. But So in other words, depending on our level of responsibility and our level of position within society and so on, the mistakes we make can really be detrimental. Just like the Yamadutas, they make a mistake. That's just, it's horrible, you can't make a mistake. They can't make that mistake. It says that for sannyasi, for example, whatever little fault they have or may have, of course some people imagine they have faults, but it's another discussion. But it says it's just like an ink spot on a white cloth. So you can't miss it. It's just because everybody's got the eyes on this, he should be acting properly. So similarly, those who don saffron cloth have a similar responsibility, that they have to be careful what they say, when they say it, how they say it, to who they say it. They have to be careful what they're thinking, what they're saying, how they're acting. And Prabhupada, he really wanted devotees to behave properly. Means Krishna consciously, as sadhus, spiritual, saintly people. And why is that? To create an atmosphere in which people could feel the energy of Vrindavan. Because Vrindavan, you could say, in some ways is a long ways away, right? You have to hop on a plane and pay some money, and how many people actually go there. So Prabhupada wanted to create little Vrindavans, you could say, all over the world, little embassies all over the world. And that when people come, they see people and they feel that energy. At the Sunday feast recently, I met some girl, she's probably like in her 20s, probably in her 30s. She's from Canada or something, Seattle. And she said that she went to India and she went to Vrindavan. And she said that when she came to the temple on the Sunday feast, she said, I felt the same energy that I felt in Vrindavan here. That same spiritual energy. So that was good. I thought that was nice. So in other words, we don't want to make mistakes that will discourage people in Krishna consciousness. And based on our, if some just ordinary guy is here at the temple and he does something wrong, he says something stupid, if someone does something wrong to some guest or something, then it's not a big deal. So they don't take it so seriously. It's just some guy. But if one of us, then it is a big deal. It affects them. So we can't afford to make at least certain mistakes. And in relation to the Yamadutas and this hospital experience, Bhakta Zak, got a call on his old school telephone, his flip phone, right? You have to be embarrassed by your flip phones out. Come on. Now he got a call on his phone. This is the temple number, and it was what do you call those guys? They go around the hospital. Chaplain, yeah. It was a chaplain from the local Scripps, 20 minutes away, but UCSD hospital. So the chaplain said, "Oh, we have this woman here, and she's sick, and in and out of the hospital, very young, but she could die any time, and we need she wants some Hindus to come in immediately and chant some prayers and some mantras. Please, can you come in?" So then Zach told me. So then we both went. I drove Zach there in a car, and we went with maybe Vaishnava. Yeah, I think Vaishnava drove actually. And we went there. So the guy, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And the guy meets us, very respectable-looking guy, elderly gentleman, chaplain, right? And he takes us up a few flights of stairs, elevator, and then we go to this room, and he says, "Okay, I'll see you later because I have to go, tend to some other patients." So okay, great. So then we walk in there, and the woman's lying there, and she doesn't look super sick, but she looks sickly, and we talked to her this and that, and again she said she's going in and out of the hospital, and just her health is a mess. She's allergic to so many different foods, and just complete mess. So then, but she has a smile on her face, and she's laughing. We go, "Oh, why are you laughing?" She says, "Oh, well, I told the chaplain, to call some Buddhist monks, and they called you guys." So she's laughing about it. So we say, "Okay, well, interesting for us too, because we made this big trip over there." Zach didn't go on Harinam Sankirtan, so he could go tend to this woman in a difficult situation. So, but she was nice, and we gave her Bhagavad Gita, and we chanted some kirtan, I think, some mridanga and kartals. And then later she said, "Oh, this is, I actually like this a lot." And she said, "This is, yeah, that's what she said. This is more fun than going to the Buddhist temple," she said. So he's very enthusiastic. We said, "Okay, thank you," and we left, gave her some prasadam or something. So now this guy made a mistake. The chaplain made a mistake. Now, of course, in this case, the mistake, it was good. It was a good mistake. But, I mean, what if she was dying? And, instead of Buddha, she called the local, what do you call those mystic Muslims? What do you call them? Sufis. She called the Sufis, right, instead of the Buddhists. And the Sufis get there, and she's on the verge of dying, and they start chanting whatever they're chanting. I mean, it's a big mistake, because she wants to worship a particular, you could say, form of the Lord, or she has a particular idea, and it's a mistake. The Sufis come, it's a mistake. Or the Hare Krishnas come, it's a mistake for that individual. So he has to be careful too. Of course, it's not such a big mistake as the Yamadutas, but so Dhruva Maharaj, he's admitting, "I made a mistake." And the mistake was that he was asking for something material from Krishna, from Vishnu. And he regrets that. He says, "I was a fool, and I was unintelligently asking for something material from Krishna." And the example is given in the verse that one who asks, if one has the opportunity to meet such a great personality as a king or so on, if they just ask for, Prabhupada would give an example. Here it says husk rice, broken grains of husk rice. But here, "My dear king, can you give me some ashes?" Right? It's just useless. Especially if you're talking to a king, they could give you so much more. Or one devotee said, you talk to some important personality, and you have to ask for something important. So when we're dealing with Krishna, we always have to keep in our minds that we shouldn't ask for something material. And we should know that if we are asking for something material, or if we do want something material, namely if we have material desires for whatever, and there's millions of things we could have material desires for, that is our misfortune. That is our misfortune. So, and what does that mean practically? It means practically that we are being influenced by the illusory energy of Krishna. Us having material desires. We're embracing the illusory energy. And what does Prabhupada say here? How to overcome that? He says, the independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with the obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle for existence. So we don't fight with Maya, because we can't. We can't overcome Maya. But what do? We surrender to Krishna. Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya dharatya mame ve prapadyante maya me tantrantite. That this divine energy, Krishna says, a mind consistent of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered to me could easily cross beyond it. So the problems have been detected. What are the problems? Yeah, that's some of the problems. Birth, death, old age, and disease, and death. Desire for material fame, name, prosperity. Anything within the category of material desires, like Rupa Goswami says, right? He says, adi, right? Anav, which means etc. It means whatever we could come up with. Jnana karmani avritam. So there's so many distractions. So first we have to detect those. What are the things that are the obstacles holding me back from being fully Krishna conscious? And then once those are detected, then we have to accept that, hey, I can't overcome this by myself. And therefore I have to surrender to Krishna. And practically speaking, to surrender to Krishna means you have to surrender to the spiritual master, and means surrender to the spiritual master's mission, and his mood, and so on, service. And in this way, one can have some chance to overcome the illusory energy, or else the problems aren't detected, right? Like one devotee said the other night, Maya makes us think that things that aren't good are actually good. Things that are bad, she makes us think they're really good. Or when we're not okay, she makes us think that we're okay. And when something is okay, when something is good, she makes us think that it's bad. So, in the most drastic example, people think, oh, Krishna consciousness is bad, right? And material life is good. So that's a very drastic example. But even within our own lives, we could say that, oh, this situation I'm in, it's not good. You can say that's just Maya. Of course it's good. It's beyond good. So whatever the case is, there's so many obstacles, there's so many distractions, and we have to detect those. And without detecting those, first the disease has to be diagnosed before it's treated. So we have to diagnose, we have to be diagnosed. And then once that, we have to start the treatment, which means surrender. And then there's some chance. So for devotees who give up the introspection of their own hearts, then they can't actually make any advancement because they think they're good. They think that they're whatever. And therefore, and what to speak of if those who give up the process of surrendering to Krishna, they also can't make an advancement, obviously. Now, of course, these 2 points that I'm making, this detecting the problem and engaging in the process of surrender to Krishna, these may seem like very simple points, but actually, many people actually don't do this. Many devotees don't do this. They don't see introspective, and they don't look into their own hearts, and they give up the process. And how do I know? Because I think anybody who has a brain could see that. Common sense. You just look around. Just take a look on what they say on Facebook and social media and so on. Where they're going for their happiness and enjoyment, and what they're saying about their gurus and so on. So yes, we want to be intelligent, and that means to see the problems and then to engage in the process to solve the problems, and that means surrender to Krishna. And in this way, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of our spiritual master, we don't have to be, we will not be unfortunate, or our misfortune won't, you could say, our wanting material things won't be the gist of our life or the main purpose of our life. Which, I mean, for the materialists, that's their main purpose in their life, and therefore they're the most unfortunate. But also for devotees, which could mean a devotee in any social position. Could be a sannyasi, could be a brahmachari, could be a grihastha, could be anybody from any part of the world in any position. That the materialist wants it full on, but if there's devotees who want things other than Krishna, then that's also unfortunate. So the idea is that we don't want to be like the materialists, obviously, and just want material things and just strive for that. But also, within the realm of devotees, we don't want to be that type of devotee who wants material things and not Krishna. Why? Because that is not who we are, and that's actually the source of suffering. So we want to come to the platform that whoever we are in whatever situation we're in, that we are purely motivated by the spiritual energy of Krishna. We're motivated by Krishna. We're moved by Krishna, just like Prabhupada. Prabhupada is moved by Krishna. He's not moved by Maya. Prabhupada's moved by Krishna. So similarly, we want to be moved by Krishna. And whatever we say, whatever we do, everything, every little aspect of our life, we want to be moved by Krishna. And in this way, we'll actually be fortunate. And we could go back to Godhead. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes.
Please kindly dispel my doubt.
I don't know if I could do that.
First off, is the word duplicitous or duplicitous? So Prabhupada in the purport, right, obviously the point that you're speaking on, is saying that a devotee can have this desire for material attraction, or desire for material benefits. So on one hand, we have Krishna offering the devotee service and the path to him, but on the other hand, the other side of Krishna's body, we have Maya. So Krishna's offering us these two completely different things. So couldn't that be seen as kind of duplicitous or contradictory? Maybe you could speak on that.
Well, it's Krishna. He wants us to have a relationship with him. a loving relationship with him. So love, of course we say this all the time, but love can't be forced. And if it is forced, it's just sick. The person's sick and twisted. Like there was one novel made up by this guy who made millions of dollars coming up with all this sick bunch of sick stories. The guy made millions of dollars. His name's Stephen King. He just comes up with all these sick stories and he writes them on paper in a nice, I don't know if you say poetic or grammatical way, and millions of people follow him. He has millions of dollars. I mean, I read some of those books before. It's just like murders and this, and it's just like horrible. So he came up with one novel, and you know what that novel was called? I think it was called Misery. And they made a movie out of it. Anyways, I don't want to disturb everybody's mind and talk. But the point is that there was an author. This was in the book. There was an author, and he got stuck on a road. Right, his truck got stuck, and then this woman was there, older woman, and let me help you, and put him into the house and everything. And she loved this author. It was a famous guy in the book. So she, I'll host you and this and that. And then she nursed him back to health, taking care of him and all that. But then it came time to leave. It's like, right, go on with my activities here. And she said, no, you have to stay here. And she made sure he stayed there. And it was super graphic how she made him stay there. It was by violence. She would actually hurt him physically. His leg, all this type of stuff. Is really horrible. So she, in her sickness and her obsession, she, I love you and I want you to stay here and I want to serve you. But by doing that, she was actually physically hurting him, like extreme pain. So that's just a mentally deranged person. So similarly, Krishna, he wants people to love him, to associate with him, to have a loving relationship, but he's not going to force it. He's not going to love me, or like Prabhupada said, right, with a revolver, love me. No, he just says, okay, I'm here, I'm waiting for you, I want to have this loving relationship with you, but okay, if you want to, go out and try to have your own loving relationships, then fine. So, so the material energy is there there is some enjoyment in the leisure energy, but it is there, practically speaking, to cause a living entity to realize that, hey, this isn't actually what I'm supposed to be doing. In other words, there's pain mixed in with the happiness. And you could say in many ways, Krishna is just absolutely merciful. We reject him, and he gives us this material world, which you could say in many ways is actually quite merciful. Just the beautiful nature. Nature is actually quite beautiful. The varieties of flowers and trees and the sun and the moon and different types of varieties of food, and he sets up this whole arrangement. He could have just made an arrangement when everybody's like in a dark, dank dungeon, with all they have to eat is bitter food and potatoes or something. But he made this whole arrangement, which you could say is illusory energy, but still it's actually quite merciful. The prison house, he created in such a way is quite merciful. So it's not contradictory, but it's Krishna's kindness that he's so merciful, so liberal, that he allows people to try to, enjoy, and there is some enjoyment there. And then when they get tired and fed up and sick of it, and they realize that it's actually not what they think it is, then he's right there, standing there, playing his flute, waiting for the and then the soul gets attracted, So, yeah, that's a quite amazing thing that Krishna's just waiting there, playing his flute, trying to attract all the conditioned souls, and then they get attracted, They see a devotee, they come to the temple, they become initiated, they start doing some service, they start getting rid of their material desires, they start having more attachment to Krishna, less detachment from Maya, and then that builds into the preliminary stages of love of Godhead, and then they get older and probably get sick, and then they're laying there on their deathbed, Hare Krishna, and then back to Godhead. It's quite amazing. So we're all in that process, like Dravida Prabhupada has that wonderful poem, The Fall and Redemption of the Soul. So I think we have, it's only, 5 minutes it'll take you? If that? You want to pass the mic to Dravida Prabhupada? This is a wonderful...
You all heard it before, but like Hare Krishna mantra.
It's ever fresh.
Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. With pure simplicity and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when a living entity rejects his true identity and out of sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he doubts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, he suffers in anxiety till contact with God's devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, the soul regains his sanity and casts away his vanity. Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing spontaneity his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
I got a slideshow.
See, that's a perfect, fall and redemption. There you go. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Balarama. Thank you, Prabhu.
Jack has.
So, one time, I believe, I don't know the whole story, maybe you know the account, but a disciple was talking about love or something, like I love this, or I love that, or I love this person, or I love you, or something. Prabhupada said, love is for Krishna. So...
Oh, I know that one.
You know that one? What was the exact...
what happened was, there was a young man in Prabhupada's room, and I believe it was in Los Angeles, and he was talking about getting married. And he was saying, whatever he was saying. I want to get, maybe I'm trying to find the right exact, spouse and this and that, and so I could love her. And then Prabhupada said, you want to get married? And then he pointed downstairs, apparently, I don't know, you can imagine like on New Dwarka, like on the street, they're all out of the window, pointed down, and there's, Mataji's walking there, women walking there, and Prabhupada said, just pick one. And he said, love is for Krishna. That's what he said. So
then my kind of thought was what was Prabhupada's mood on relationships within the material world between devotees or devotee grihastas or just devotees in general?
Rupa Goswami, who we follow, Rupanugas, right? Or Rupanugas. We're followers of Rupa Goswami, and he has described in the Nectar of Instruction that Dadati Priti Granati Guyamakati Prichati Bhunkte Bo Jayate Chaiva Shadvidhim Priti Lakshanam, that there's 6 loving exchanges that devotees have with one another. Giving gifts, accepting gifts, giving prasad, accepting prasad, inquiring confidentially, and revealing one's mind in confidence. So Prabhupada said, a less experienced devotee approaches a more experienced devotee, and he inquires. He reveals his mind and inquires. Revealing. So So it is of importance, or else Rupa Goswami wouldn't have mentioned it. And if we want to be successful, then we have to follow Rupa Goswami, or Rupa Anugas. So it is actually very important, these loving relationships. And practically speaking, if somebody doesn't have these, then they'll have a very difficult time in Krishna consciousness. And most likely they'll give it up. Because they don't really have any friends. And they'll just go seek it out somewhere else. Like a lot of brahmacharis, sometimes brahmacharis, they don't have friends. And they'll seek, and because they don't have friends, over time, they'll seek that relationship somewhere else. And namely, they'll seek it in a woman. They'll get married. Which, okay, fine. It's the end of the world, a huge disaster or something, but maybe not necessarily they had to do that. Maybe they could just remain brahmacharis, happy brahmacharis, whatever. So we have to have that friendship, that relationships with people. It's of the utmost importance. And we should think practically, how am I doing these things practically? How am I practically giving prasad, accepting prasad, giving gifts, accepting gifts? It's a practical thing. It's not like some, far out, non-tangible thing. It's like super tangible, super practical, day-to-day thing. So, for example, cooking nice prasad, that could be seen as an offering to all the Vaishnavas, offering a prasad, just like kanai. Everybody likes kanai's breakfast, his burritos, right? Some people like it more than others. Some people like it a lot, whatever. But it's an offering that he gives to the devotees. He's offering prasad. He may not be, and he actually distributes it too, which is really good. Make the breakfast, distribute the breakfast. That's good. That's the best, actually. You make the prasad, you distribute the prasad. Or whatever, certain things like that. Offering prasad, revealing one's mind, inquiring. So these are giving gifts like Bhajanarayan Swami. When he goes to India, so many times he comes back and says, oh, hey, Dr. Jamal, you know what, I got this, this nice big book, and it shows you how to, draw pictures of Prabhupada's face, and oh, hey, I got this book for you, Zach, whatever. It teaches you more how to play mridanga or something. That actually didn't happen, but just for example, but Jamal, he actually gave a book. So he doesn't have to do that. I mean, it's not that it's, it's written on a piece of paper. The local GBC, when he goes to India, he has to come back and bring all the brahmacharis gifts. It doesn't say that. He does it because he wants to have, a little relationship there. Or Jayapataka Goswami's, as far as I understand, I mean, quite frequently at these big GBC meetings, or small GBC, whatever you want to call them, when all the devotees are there meeting, Jayapataka Goswami tries to think of different ways in which he give all the devotees gifts, all of his godbrothers. So I remember one year I heard he gave them all nice, like these really nice gumshoes. It's cool, nice gumshoes. And now Javita Prabhu told me, Jayapataka Goswami emailed him and said, can you send me your Bhagavad Gita audio on a little hard drive, right?
He said, I thought he was going to give us a pen to everybody that had a little thumb drive, but he's going to give us what he called a pen drive.
Oh, okay.
Recording the Gita. And I wrote to him, I said, how you can download it. He hasn't written back to us.
Yeah, so he's going to give all of his godbrothers this little pen drive which would produce audio. So it's nice things, it's relationship. So we have to have those, and yeah, we should practically think, okay, maybe I should start, cooking a breakfast, or maybe I should start cooking a Raj Bhog, or maybe I should, make some sweets and offer to devotees, or maybe I should save some sweets and offer them to devotees, or whatever. So yeah, and also sometimes it's challenging because we're in such close quarters. We see each other every day, whether we like it or not. We have to speak to each other every day, more or less, whether we like it or not, or at least sometimes. So it's a little challenging sometimes, to kind of see ourselves in a good light, each other in a good light. And therefore we have to, go to India every once in a while, spend some time, maybe separate, or maybe spend some more time together, develop a relationship. So what I'm saying is sometimes it's easier to have these loving relationships with people that we're not so in close quarters with. Because like, okay, hey, somebody comes to the temple, devotees outside or something, you give them a gift or prasad. It's like almost easier. So, but we have to do both. Because, charity starts at home. We have to have that loving relationships with each other. And then that will actually help us have a loving relationship with everybody else. So, yeah. All right, does anyone have any last question or comment? No? All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.